Hi everybody, I'm Michelle from Pequot Model Railroad Club, and today we are going to make pine trees out of natural fiber furnace filters. So the materials you need to make these trees are, first you need the natural fiber furnace filters. You can get these at Walmart, your local home store like Home Depot, or on the internet. These I got off of Amazon. Other things that you need are scissors, bamboo skewers, Elmer's white glue. I also have a 50-50 white glue and water mix, Rust-Oleum camouflage paint, and then your choice of ground foam or leaf material. I have Woodland Scenic's blended turf and Scenic Express's juniper green super leaves. And it's also helpful to have some foam to stick your trees in while you're making them. All right, so the first step in making your trees is you're going to cut circles out of your natural fiber furnace filter, and you're going to cut them in decreasing circumferences so that it makes like a typical Christmas tree peak towards the top. And you can either start cutting them in squares and then round off the edges, or you can just cut straight circles out of the material, whichever way is easier for you. And then your next one you're going to make smaller. And I usually do, depending on the type of the size tree that you want, I'll do 2 or 3 circles. And they in no way have to be perfectly round. All right, so we had a couple to start with. So now on the back side of the furnace filter, there's this grid that holds the fibers together. We don't need that, so you can just peel them right off. And then your next step will be to fluff the filter. You just pull the edges apart. And this is also a good opportunity if you have any bigger pieces in the filter to pull them out, because it's not very realistic. So just rip it right out. And don't worry if it leaves a big gap in the branches. It'll actually make it look a lot more realistic when we're done. All right, so we've fluffed our pieces. Now we are going to glue them onto the skewer. And just a typical bamboo skewer. And just plain old Elmer's white glue. So I just put a dollop of glue right in the center. And then push it through the middle of the tree and slide it down to about where you want your base to stop. So probably right about there will be fine. Now, depending on what type of tree you want to make, if you want to make more of a typical Christmas tree style, you can just add the next one right on top of it. If you wanted to give it a little bit more dimension, I take these little triangle pieces that we cut off the edges, fluff them just a little bit, and put them on the skewer in between the layers to give it a little bit more dimension so that they're not right on top of each other. And then do your next layer, put the glue on it. And slide it down. And I'll give it a little bit more fluff so that I don't jam the next one down on top of it too hard. And then another spacer. More glue and the final tier. Now we still have to do the top of it. And for that, I take another triangle piece and just kind of try and fold it. This one's a little bit, the edges are a little bit too long, so we're just going to trim up the edges a little bit. So you just take it and kind of pinch it, kind of fold it in on each other, and put a little bit of glue in that spot that you pinched. And right on top of it goes. And don't worry if your skewer sticks out a little bit, you can always trim it on a little bit later. So now that you have it all on the skewer, you can take and you want to cut the filters so that it gives more definitive branches in it. So I just like to go through and just make little cuts in them, basically making more triangle pieces. We're going to cut out some little triangles to give it branch definition. And this is a step that if you, depending on how you like to do it, you can actually do it before you stick them on the skewer. Which can be easier, but then you can't see what your tree looks like while you're doing it as well. I'm also going to trim it a little bit to give it the shape I want. And I recommend looking at a lot of prototype pictures before you start doing this to see what kind of tree shape you're after, because there are actually a lot of different types of evergreens that we can mimic with this material. And you want to try and be as random as possible. We tend to like to try and make patterns out of things, but when you make patterns, it doesn't look as natural when it comes to trees. And sometimes instead of cutting out triangle chunks, I will just come in and just snip a few times in an area, and that'll take little pieces out rather than large pieces, just to give it a little bit of extra branch definition, because sometimes the furnace filter will all be a little bit clumped together in certain areas. And you just keep trimming until you get it to look the way you want to. So once your glue has dried, the next step is to paint your tree. Now a lot of you think, maybe why am I painting it? It's green, but it gives it a little bit more definition after you put the leaves or the ground foam on to make it look more like a tree. And your bamboo skewer is not very realistically colored. So what I usually do is I stick it into a piece of foam and then I spray paint it. I use Rust-Oleum Camouflage brown color, but you can use any brown that you like, or you can even try some grays, because a lot of times trees will have a gray tone to them. But personally, I think the brown just looks more tree-like to me. So make sure you spray in a well-ventilated area, wear a face mask, and I suggest gloves, because you're going to want to hold the foam and twist it around to make sure you get even coverage, so that way you don't have to clean up your hands afterwards. So this is a tree that has been spray painted already and is all set for the next step, which is to put leaves cover on it. For that, you can use whatever your preference is. We've got some Woodland Scenics blended turf, or I also like to use, this one doesn't have a label on it, but this is Scenic Express's fine leaf or super leaves. This is a juniper green color. So your first step is to get your leaf, the branches all covered with glue. And I just have a 50-50 glue and water mixture. And I just spray it over a tub, that way I don't have to clean up afterwards. And get both the top and the bottom covered with glue. And if you're doing the fine foliage, if you're doing the Woodland Scenic foam, you can sprinkle it on. I happen to have a bag of the super leaves, so I'm just gonna dip it in the bag and roll it around. Even sprinkle some on top. Get it all nice and covered. Give it a couple little shakes. And there you go. I usually will let it dry once and then hit it again with another layer of glue so that it really sets, because we do a lot of traveling with our layout, so the more glue on the trees, the better. And if you're not happy with the coverage, you can always give it another shot as well. I hope you enjoyed making pine trees with me today. Don't forget to check out the rest of our great videos on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.